I'm and girlfriend is and has kids. I am afraid of losing the bond one have with her son. Should I continue fighting for the relationship? I have been involved in a relationship for just under a year now. I love this girl and I know she loves me too, but the problem I have is her giving me lectures about how what I am doing in our relationship is not enough to make her feel loved or seen. We have had fights in the past and at some point, she told me I act like a pussy and I was not man enough for her. We have gone through couples counseling since, which ended last week, but the same things we tried to work on during the counseling is what she doing right now. I have given her my time and sacrificed a lot. I buy flowers and take her for dinners, we go for walks on regular basis and we talk often. She has kids from previous relationships, 11-year-old girls and 16-year-old boy. I help around all that. We don't live together, but I am at her house 3 or 4 days a week. One of my friends mentioned how I have changed since I started dating this girl, and apparently I appear not to be myself. She wants me to do regular weekly check-ins about how the relationship is going. A text or call asking how are you doing today is not enough. In her words, I am the man, so I need to do check-ins with her. She feels she does more check-ins than me. Last Sunday I just felt like I had enough. Her requests have become exhausting to me mentally, so I told her I didn't think I was the man for her, as she is trying to match me with the ideal partner that she wants to be with. And that she has failed to accept me for who I am. So as long as I am with her, there will always be that void or feeling of not getting enough from me. I said I don't want to waste her time. So I asked if we can just be friends. I know she accepted that, but not fully. Her son, who just turned 16, and I have a great relationship with him, he calls me stepdad and talks to his friend about me. He comes over to my place on weekends, we hang out, sleepovers, and we talk. My only regret is probably breaking the bond one have with him. I love this boy like my own. He has even changed on his school reports and all communication to come to me and not his mom. This is just a summary of a lot of other things. I would love to talk to someone over the phone or privately for advice. Comment. You want us to believe a 16-year-old boy voluntarily calls you his stepdad when you have been dating his mom for under a year? Yeah, this is one of the worst fakes I've seen around in some time. Any 16-year-old who's calling his mom's new boyfriend stepdad is already pretty messed up, unfortunately. In a healthy relationship with a decent parent, you wouldn't have even met these kids yet. Point being, once you end things with her, which you need to because she's desperate for something that doesn't exist, you can't have contact with her kids. She's the kind of unbalanced person who's likely to assume you of something illegal and try to destroy your life. Also, FFS, stop having this kid sleep over with you. It's like you want to be investigated or something. Get out of this whole situation before she gets you sent to prison as a child sex offender. Next story 2. I met my ex yesterday. She is leaving her husband and I need a voice of reason. We had a very brief relationship 10 years ago. She was very interested but I wasn't, so as soon as I realized it, I ended it. We both, still, struggle with mental health. To be honest, in a very similar way, many of our anxieties come from similar thoughts. The difference is that, already when we were seeing each other, she was finding her balance. I, on the other hand, have been getting worse over these last 10 years, many of which I spent essentially hiding from people. When we parted ways, what saddened me the most was the realization that, even though she was perfect for me, I still didn't love her. A few years later she found another person and later they got married. I can't say I was happy, but my brief sadness was just some egotistical tantrum. Even though I didn't love her, she was the only one that had loved me, and I was a bit sad when I realized it wasn't like that anymore. As I said, an immature thought, and I obviously told nothing to her. We stayed friends even though we didn't see each other so much, mostly because I, as I said, had become more and more isolated. Last year she asked me to meet and told me she was having trouble with her husband. To be clear, she told me because I am a friend and she feels comfortable talking to me about emotions because she says I am objective, and while I am not particularly open, we understand each other. In the same way, I thought of her just as a friend and I gave all the support I could. To summarize, in these years I thought of her as a friend I was comfortable with, in spite of the regret of not having loved her which has always been present. Yesterday I saw her because few days ago she told me she decided to leave her husband. Considering what she told me last year, I knew it would end up this way, and we agreed to see each other for lunch at my place. I recently moved, so I showed her the apartment. In the end she stayed for dinner too and left after. My problem is that, as soon as I saw her, I knew I was kind of fucked. It was confirmed by the jealousy I felt when she told me a colleague of her was clearly interested in her and she was attracted to him. Now, first point, I feel like I would like to try again with her. Is this genuine or is it just my loneliness speaking? We'll never know. Second point, she and her husband had been growing distant for a while, so what pains her the most is not some lingering feeling but the fact that she feels too old to start again, considering she would like to have children. Let's now assume my feelings are genuine and I could really love her. As I said, I have been living as an hermit for years. My experience with people is minimal and with romantic partners even more so. So I cannot say for sure I share her point of view. Sure, I want kids, but what if we start a relationship and a year from now I realize I don't want to have kids with her or at all? It would destroy her even more. This is my reasoning for why I need to shut the fuck up and pretend this is not happening. Rationally it works perfectly, now I need to give up emotionally. My therapist is traveling somewhere, I'll see him sometime in September, so, in the meantime, here is how I am coping. Next story 3. I can feel my relationship with my BF falling apart. I met my boyfriend in December of last year and we started dating in January of this year. I love him so much. I've been in a lot of toxic relationships, and can tell he's different. We have built our relationship up so high and I couldn't ask for more. I will admit, I am the more clingy and sensitive type, but feel like I'm being neglected. Me and him hardly used to argue. It would just be playful fighting and simple disputes that would be resolved in little time. They would always end with me apologizing. Lately, it's been happening every other day and more serious, too. We lash out at each other quite frequently. We texted every day, until around the beginning of June. I would text good morning, good night, and just chit-chat about whatnot, and just to see how he's feeling and what he's doing. But he doesn't even read it. He never seems interested in conversation anymore. When I text him, I usually wait for more than 5 hours, sometimes days. When he does reply, it's a few dry texts like yep and k and then back to nothing until days later. I just straight up asked him what's on his mind, and why he doesn't reply much anymore. I ask him if he still loves me, if he's just leading me on, and he denies it and says that I'm the bad guy for thinking that he doesn't love me. He says he's a busy guy and he can't always text me at all hours of the day. I just left it at that, even though it was tearing me up inside. I surrounded myself with friends and tried to wait for him. Maybe that will help me cope, I thought. I was in a very vulnerable state, so inevitably, I ended up venting to all my friends about my situation. They listened to every word that left my mouth and took it into consideration. They all came to the conclusion that he was seeing another person behind my back. Those words destroyed me. I cried myself to sleep that night. I want to ask him if that's true. I want to ask him so bad, I really do. But what is it? Turns out he's not, and I end up destroying what's left of our relationship. I'm driving myself crazy with this. Should I break up with him? What do I do? Please help me. I don't know what to do anymore. Comment. I would say that you should break up with him because he is waiting for an excuse to break up with you. His dry text is a sign that he is not interested anymore, and as much as that hurts, it's better for you. You may think that it's the end of the world and it may feel like it, but you will realize later that it was for the best and that he lost a good thing. I would like to give you some advice though, coming from someone who is also very clingy and attached to my boyfriend. In your next relationship, give them space. Don't suffocate them by texting them all the time, and don't jump to any conclusions of your significant other not being interested in you anymore if they haven't given you any actual reason to think that. And you did the right thing by surrounding yourself with friends to keep yourself occupied so that you could give your significant other space. You should keep doing that so that it will be easier for you to go through your day without feeling like you're miserable because you didn't talk to your significant other a lot or because you didn't get to see them that day. I used to have issues with my boyfriend because I was so clingy, and we would argue all the time because all I could think about was why he didn't want to be with me all the time or why he didn't want to text all the time. In reality, I should have been thinking about how we both need our own space from time to time in order to maintain a healthy and balanced relationship. Trust me, when you give your significant other and yourself space, you will both be happier and feel happier. You just opened up my eyes, and now I understand what I've been doing to him. Thank you so much. God bless you.